Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sagaviriyam Karavavagai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavitvishavagayi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And when you hear the word from God, it will make you God. Chapter 22, line number 34. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. The Sadducees are the priests, and the Pharisees are also involved with a temple, with a synagogue, along with the scribes. So now, in the earlier section we saw the last time, when they tried to pin down Jesus with certain questions. Or before that, where did we end last time? Line 14, isn't it? That's right. For many are called, but few are chosen. Isn't it? That's right. So, all right. Then we get to the line number 15 of this 22nd chapter. Then went the Pharisees and took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk. And they sent unto him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that thou art true, and teachest the way of God in truth. Neither carest thou for any man, for thou regardest not the person of men. So it seems as if the Pharisees and the scribes, they all knew. So first of all, they want to entangle him. Catch him somewhere, trip him. So they sent out unto him their disciples. So these Sadducees and Pharisees, they sent their own disciples unto Jesus with Herodians, saying, Master, we know that thou art true. So now openly they acknowledge that he is true. That he openly they are saying that you are the Messiah, openly, but they don't want to accept it. Thou art true and teachest the way of God in truth. And you also speak the truth about and talk about the way to God. And teacheth the way of God in truth. So now do you say that Jesus' prime mission was to teach you the way of God, the way to God, which is in truth. So in truthfully, that was his prime mission, to show you the way, how to get to God, to attain God. And these people knew it. After all, they are learned doctors of the scriptures, so they know it. And furthermore, neither carest thou for any man. You don't care for any man, for his sentiments and opinions and feelings. Thou speakest what is correct and what is true, irrespective of the person. Because people in the world sometimes speak things to please people. Now that is a sign of weakness. And there are also people who displease people also deliberately. So this is not the case with you. You have neither the intention of pleasing or displeasing the people, but you are primarily concerned, irrespective of the personages around you, to speak the truth and nothing but the truth and show the people the way to God. For thou regardest not the person of men. Tell us therefore, what thinkest thou? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar? It's a very tricky question. Is it all right, it is correct to give tribute to Caesar? Because the people of Israel were burdened by their tributes to the Romans. So they wanted to trip him that way. But Jesus perceived their wickedness. Jesus knew with what intention they wanted to trip him. If he says yes, he displeases the people. If he says no, of course he falls into a trap with the Romans. So therefore, Jesus says, why tempt me, you hypocrites? Show me the tribute money. Show me. And they brought unto him a penny. All right, this is. And he saith unto them, who sees this image and superscription? Who sees the image on one side, and on the other side you will find a superscription? Who sees it? They say unto him, Caesar's. It is Caesar's image. Then saith he unto them, is a very famous statement. Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's. So it's a very non-committal answer. Either this way or that way. So if the image of the coin is of Caesar's, therefore render unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's. And unto God the things which are God's. Unto God, so render unto God which are the things which are of God. Now of course, render unto Caesar which are Caesar's. So that means, irrespective of any other consideration, if you are constrained to pay your taxes, just pay it. Just pay it. Don't hassle with it and find legal ways, to get out of it. Right? Then he says, unto God the things that are God's. So, and what belongs to God, you render it to God. What is that which belongs to God? And that which are God's, things that are God's, render unto God. What is that? the end results or the fruits of your actions. Every action that you do in life, you do it with dedication as a ritual and dedicate it to God, to the good Lord. He who has given you whatever actions or karmas which each person is supposed to do in this lifetime, that may you do. And of course there is an inviolable law that every action has got its corresponding reaction. So every action that you do has got its corresponding end result. So what you do is, you do all your actions as a ritual. This is the real ritual. This is the real ritual. And perform it in the temple of God. Now God has created two temples. One temple is within you and the other temple is planet Earth. Planet Earth, this is the planet Earth is the mysterious, mystical body of God, or the temple of God, on which you are currently living and on which you are performing your actions. So therefore these actions should be done by one and all as a ritual, And when you do it as a ritual, of course all these actions get dedicated to the good Lord. So that's why it's a ritual. So when you perform your actions, your day-to-day daily actions as a ritual, then the attitude of doing it as a ritual, the feeling and the attitude that you have in doing whatever action or karmas as a ritual gets offered unto the God, and with that the matter is over. So this is your dedication. You perform your functions, your actions or karmas in the world. So it is this which, because God has allotted this and given to you during this lifespan. So this is the true ritual which is to be done on planet Earth. As for instance, as an example, when you do farming, then the farm work should be done as a ritual. When you prepare food, generally, as an offering to the good Lord, you perform it and prepare it like a ritual. So this is an example. So all actions, the ritual of taking a bath, the ritual of eating food, these are examples, the ritual of eating food. And then the final ritual is the ritual of living life. The life that you live, with all its forms of actions, functions, along with life experiences, are to be gone through as a ritual. Then you will get sanctified by these rituals, because it is the popular belief that when you perform temple and church rituals, it's a popular belief that it will sanctify you. That is why you are performing these rituals in the church, in temples, churches, etc. But when you perform your day-to-day actions and functions as a ritual, this will sanctify you. So the living of life, when lived with piety, when you live life with piety, that life which you are living will sanctify you. So this is how sanctification takes place. Sanctification. So therefore he says, what belongs unto God, that are God's. Render unto God which are things which are God's. So when they had heard these words, they marveled and left him and went their way. So when the Sadducees or the Pharisees, when they heard him, they wondered at the brilliance of his answer. And they marveled it and left him and went their way. The same day came to him the Sadducees. Now it was the turn of the Sadducees. First the Pharisees came to trip him. Now the Sadducees. Sadducees are the priests who perform the priestly functions in the temples, in the temples. So there were no churches at that time, temples and synagogues. Those were the terms used. And these Sadducees said, now they also wanted to trip Jesus in some form or the other, which say that there is no resurrection. Resurrection. So these Sadducees, that there is no resurrection. And they said, there is no resurrection. So that means what they are trying to say is, once a person goes into the grave, there is no resurrection. One lifetime. Because there is no resurrection. That's what they say. The Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection, and asked him, saying, Master, Moses said, if a man die, am I right in this? There is a little catch there. Wait a minute, before that no resurrection, what does the other texts say about it? That is right. So it's okay. That same day the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, so they claim that there is no resurrection, they came to him with a question. Teacher, they said, Moses told us that if a man dies without having children, his brother must marry the widow and have children for him. Now there were 7 brothers amongst us. The first one married and died, and since he had no children, he left his wife to his brother. The same thing happened to the second and the third brother, right on down to the seventh, and finally the woman died. Now then, at the resurrection, whose wife will she be of the 7? Whose wife will she be? Since all of them were married to her. Whose wife will she be? So Jesus replied, he said, you do err. You're making a mistake. He told the Sadducees, not knowing the scriptures. You don't know the scriptures. That is true. The priest do not know the scriptures. And this is a standard case even then, and so is it today. Because the moment they get tangled up with priestly duties and priestly functions, they miss the whole point. And this is so in all traditions, in all religious traditions. So, you do err, not knowing the scriptures. One eminent Swami, who was the master, who was a master of the scriptures, and he was an eminent scholar too, but more than that, he was a mystic who had a profound mystical insight. And he told me that those who teach the scriptures know not what they are teaching. Know not. So this was the case then, so is it the case today. So is it the case today? And this is so all over the world, in all traditions. In all traditions. Because the subject and the content of scripture is something. It's a mystical content. It has got nothing to do with religious beliefs and practices and rituals. Totally. It has got nothing to do with that. He doesn't talk about it. So therefore he says, you do err not knowing the scriptures. Know the power of God. Nor do you understand the power of God, the mysterious power of God, which works in mysterious ways in the universe. Then he says, for in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage. Right? So when people get resurrected, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of heaven, of God, angels of God in heaven. That is to say, the angels of God, but are as the angels of God. The angels of God exist and live in an unseen subtle body. Subtle body, that's why you can't see them. Similarly also, he says, those who, for in the resurrection, they are as the angels of God in heaven. That means they live in a subtle body. Like the angels. Like the angels, they live in a body. Now, may you understand that when a person dies or passes away and you take him to the grave, when you take him to the grave, the person is not there. Only his body, which is called a carcass. That's why it's a carcass. Every body, it is a carcass. Only the physical carcass is there. And you bury the carcass. The person has left. The moment he expired, he left. His soul left him. His soul left him. He's gone out of that body. So it is a physical body which is called the carcass. Now once the soul leaves, it is called a carcass. Carcass. Carcass means a lifeless body. The carcass of an animal. The carcass of an animal. So here also it's just a body with no life in it. So the soul leaves the person and it goes out and lives in a subtle form. So, but are as the angels of God. So he says very clearly, in the resurrection they neither marry, nor are they given in marriage. Right? That is a myth. That is a myth. If that is the case, many people will think twice before. Hey, we had quite a terrible time while living. Now, is it going to continue on later on? So, therefore, it's not so. It's not so. That is why he says, for in the resurrection they neither marry the other person. No are given in marriage. No are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. But he says, the next line, 31. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have you not read that which was spoken unto you by God's way? Have you not read this? So in the scripture it is mentioned, spoken unto you, and God spoke to you unto you by God. God said, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So he says, God declares, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And then it is said, God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. That's a very important statement. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So therefore it is very clear that when Abraham died, his soul left, and his son is a living thing thereafter. So also Isaac, his son. So also Jacob. After they each one died or left, their soul left the body, and therefore it is existence separate from the body. So so God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So one thing is very clear here, that in a veiled form, the concept of reincarnation is being subtly mentioned. That after a person, he does not die once and for all, but he continues. But the person continues. So lifetime after lifetime he continues. So this is the concept of reincarnation, that the man is carrying on, he is continuing. He is not, so it is not, life is not a one-time existence. It's very clear. Life is not a one-time existence, but it continues. Jesus is saying this. And this statement was so declared in the Old Testament too. It is said, He is the God of the living, not of the dead, but of the living. So this is a very important, and this is mentioned in the Exodus 3:6, in the book of Exodus. This is mentioned there. And so therefore these souls exist in a subtle state like the angels after resurrection. Then when the multitude heard this, they were astonished at his doctrine. They were indeed astonished. Then, number 34th section. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. Now, once again, now this was asked by the Sadducees. So previously the Pharisees are put to silence. They were astonished. Now the Sadducees also were astonished at Jesus' doctrines and sayings. So then they began to conspire. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. They got together. Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him and saying, then nevertheless, they still wanted to. Now it was the turn of the Pharisees. Then one of the Pharisees was a scribe, was a lawyer, a scribe. Asked him a question, asked Jesus a question, tempting him once again, saying, let us see what type of answer he will give to this. Master, which is a great commandment in the law? What is the great commandment? Because already Moses had given 10 commandments, and which is actually more than 10, it's about 24 commandments. Now they are asking Jesus to give a commandment in the law. What is it? What is the commandment? So Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. So Jesus said, You shalt love the Lord thy God. Who is thy God? With all thy heart. With all thy heart. You love him with your heart. So whenever you tell somebody that I love you, you say it with your heart. You don't say it with your mind. Right? So mind doesn't mean anything, it's the heart. So they say, don't they say, I love you with all my heart? Do people say like that? I love. So here also, with all your heart, you should love God. Shall love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy being, and with all thy mind. You should love thy Lord. And then he said, this is the first and great commandment. It's the first and great commandment for any person. Because, you know why this is the first and the great commandment? Because love is the center of your existence. Love. Each person lives because doesn't he love to live? Doesn't he love to live? Love to exist? Everyone loves to exist. Even a worm loves to exist. That is why if it is harmed, it wriggles and wants to escape, because it wants to exist. A fly too, a butterfly too. So everything loves to exist. Even a man too, he loves to exist. Well, in between he may have some pains, right? And then he may get despondent and say, well, I want to terminate. But that's only momentary. Soon after he gets over it. And once again he gets back to life. Once again. So there was one young man who came to the Himalayan area, to Rishikesh, to the mountains. And he said, now I am disgusted with life. Nothing in life. I want to be a monk, a hermit monk, take to this life. Everything is finished. A fellow was so despondent. So one Swami who had known him previously, or his people, his father, the next time he asked him, why did you really come? You say you are disgusted of life, you want to pass away. Why did you come? So the poor fellow confessed that with all his heart he was in love with a girl, and that the whole situation collapsed. So he is now disgusted with life, poor fellow. So therefore he wants now come here and live like this. Then the Swami told him, you bloody fool, do you think just for a creature like that the whole world is lost? Get back to life. Get back to the living of life. For one creature you are so desperate like this. What's the meaning? Get back. Then later on, when I personally paid a visit to that area, and this fellow was riding a motorbike waving to. So now he has gone back to life. So therefore everybody loves to live. Right? For the time being they may be a little dejected, despondent, because Love is the center of your existence. Everyone loves to exist. And everything around you is an extension of this love. So that is why he says, love thy Lord with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. Right? So when you begin to love, you begin to grow and expand in love. And finally your love embraces the whole of creation with all its beings. And then it also embraces God. It also embraces God. So as it keeps on embracing all living creatures, that is why in the Noah's Ark, what is this Noah's Ark? In which 2 of every species were to be put on board, so that they can be, after the deluge is over, that they can survive. Right? So Noah's Ark, really speaking, is your consciousness. Your consciousness, in which you are to embrace 2 of every species, means of all beings in the whole of creation. You are to embrace like a family, right? So your love should expand, your consciousness and your love and your consciousness should expand and embrace all beings, living beings in the whole universe. Then only when you do so, can you go to the other side, other shore, and go beyond the deluge. And which is, you are sinking in this universe and go to the other shore of enlightenment, getting enlightened. So therefore, love is a center of your existence. Not only is it the center of your own existence, love is the center of religion. In a religion where there is no love and where there is no practice of love, unconditional love, for one and all, the religion has missed the point totally. Right? Because the center of all religious teaching is love. You have to love one and all. Then it is said that the next factor is that God is love. If God is love, then you too also, in order to experience God, which is love, you should be also loving. Loving, unconditional loving. And this unconditional, the good example of an unconditional love is a mother's love to her little children. It's totally unconditional, right? She will even give her life for the child, for the little baby, little child. It's unconditional love. So how fiercely they are protective. The little animals are so fiercely protective of their young ones and nurture and take care of them. So love is the center of your existence. Love is the center of God's existence. And therefore, in order to arrive at the God experience, you must be full of love. You must be full of love. So he says, this is the first and great commandment. And the second is, like unto it, is just like the first. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. The second great. So automatically when you love thy neighbor as thyself, now who is your neighbor? The one who is living in the neighboring house is your neighbor. The one who is living in the next village is your neighbor. Your neighboring village is your neighbor. The one who is living in the next town is your neighbor. The one who is living in the next country is your neighbor. And the one who is living in the next planet is your neighbor. The next planet, far away, is your neighbor. So everybody is your neighbor. So therefore we must learn to live our life. And it says, love thy neighbor as thyself. So whoever they are, it doesn't matter. You learn to love them. You learn to be loving towards them. At least be loving towards them. When you become loving towards them, you will grow in love. That's the whole secret. And in order to grow this love in you, now remember this, in order to grow and develop this love in you, and also to develop in love, you are brought into human interaction with each other. That is why you are brought into human fellowship and interaction. Through this process, you begin to, through relationships, through interaction, relationships, initially relationships, there's a relationship of love. Because of relationship, there is love. So, in this man, that is why you are brought into relationships. This is the primary purpose of all relationships. To grow in love. To grow in love. Then, when you have fully expanded and grown in love, unconditional love, then after that, you become qualified and suitable and competent to live alone as a hermit. Now do you understand? That is why a hermit is one who lives alone and is capable of being alone, because he has now developed this love and it is natural to his nature. So therefore a true hermit loves one and all. He is loving to one and all. Loving to one and all. And one thing he will find it very difficult to do. You know what it is? To fall in love with anybody. It is not possible for this. Since he is loving to everybody. Right? So therefore this is one situation. It is not possible for you because of his loving nature to one and all. Whether the person be known or unknown, behold, it doesn't matter indeed. So therefore, he says, these are the two great commandments which God has given you. And in line number 40 he says, on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So Jesus also says very clearly that it's on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets, all the laws which have been enunciated. Because now it is very simple. That's why he says hang all the law and the commandments and the prophets and their commandments. Why? When you have this love in you, you cannot exploit the other person. You cannot steal from the other person. You cannot bluff the other person. You cannot take away something which belongs to the other person. And you will be concerned. You will not have hatred towards the other person, ill will, because you will only consider his well-being at all times. So therefore he says, all the law and the prophets, they are based on this love. When you have love in your heart, you just give. You give. It is the love which makes you give. It's unconditional giving. in all situations, in all places, in all conditions. It is this love which makes you to give. And when you have this love, you have a great joy in giving. You have more joy in giving than in taking. You want to give. The more you have, the more you want to give. Then, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them. Now all these fellows had gathered together around him, they want to pin him and catch him somewhere. So Jesus asked them, now all right, now it's all fine that now all of you are around me. Now I want you to ask me, I want to ask something from you. Something I want to ask from you. What think you of Christ? What do you think of this character called Christ? This person who is now going about as Christ, what do you think about him? Who is he? Whose son is he? Whose son is he? Who? This Christ. Because it was claimed that some claim that he is the son of David and son of Joseph and son of God. So many claims are there. So he's asking, what do you think? Whose son is he? And they say unto him, they tell him, the son of David. Of course he is the son of David. He has come down the lineage of David. Therefore he is the son of David. Then Jesus saith unto them, then if that is so, if he is the son of David, how is it? How doth David in spirit call him Lord? Then how is it that David, because there was a spirit in God, of God, which is speaking via David, and it mentioned, in spirit call him Lord. So the spirit called him, David in spirit call him Lord. How did he call him Lord? So if he calls him Lord, certainly he cannot be the son of David. Because he knows that Jesus cannot be the son of David because he calls him as Lord. So how doth David in spirit call him Lord, saying, and saying what? Because the Lord said unto my Lord, the Lord God in a spirit form said unto my Lord. So my Lord is Jesus. Unto my Lord, sit thou on my right hand till I make thine enemies the footstool. So the Lord God had told David. And David says, the Lord God said unto my Lord, said unto my Lord, that is Jesus, sit thou on my right hand. So, till I make thine enemies thy footstool. That is, footstool means, till I overcome them or conquer them. If David then call him Lord, how is he his son? How is he his son? It's not possible. Now there is something very intriguing about this. Thus, in this manner, when Jesus mentioned this, he is indirectly implying his direct descent from God. Indirectly implying his direct descent from God, and not as the son of David. Not as the son of David. So which means that even though it is mentioned, the son of David, it is only just mentioned, right? For saying so. But really speaking, David himself acknowledges that he is Lord, he is the son, he is the Lord. So if he was a son, he cannot acknowledge this, he cannot say that. So thereby it is indicated that Jesus, for two things are indicated here. That He is a direct descent of God. He came from God, and also he does not come under the lineage of David. Isn't it? These two factors are very clear. Right? It's very clear now. So Jesus himself disclaims by this his descent from David. From David. He disclaims that. That is why Joseph is the foster father. Is a foster father of Jesus, not the real biological father. He was a foster father. Clear? And no man was able to answer him a word, and nobody could answer after that. You know, Jesus was so smart in his answers given, which he gave, and the questions which were opened out by these persons to trip him. So, even with respect to the coin, and with so many others, so he was pretty smart about it. And no man was able to answer him a word, neither does any man, neither also no man from that day ask him any further questions. From that day, all questions about him, these people tried to ask him, it all stopped. They knew that this man is really the Son of God, but they didn't want to acknowledge it. But they felt that if we allow him, he's a little dangerous now. He's a little dangerous for us. But this they knew. Now he is a special person. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. These scribes and the Pharisees, who are the teachers of the law, they sit in Moses' seat. Therefore, since they sit in Moses' seat, promulgating the laws, just as much as the judges sit in the courts, in their seats, promulgating various laws, saying this is the law and that is not the law, and so on and so forth. So also these Pharisees and the scribes sit in Moses' seat in promulgating various laws of so many different types. So all therefore whatsoever they bid you observe. So whatsoever they bid you observe, whatever their laws they put out from time to time, you just observe. That observe and do. That observe and do. Those laws you observe, because they are not going to put in and say, do wrong things. Like stealing. They are not going to tell you to steal. That stealing today has become a law. Or lying has become a law. Giving false witness and etc. So, they will not do that. But whatever laws they promulgate, or they mention to you, just observe it and just follow it up. But do not do after their works, but do not follow them. Do not follow their works. Because these people say and promulgate these laws, but they do not observe them. So don't follow them as an example. Don't follow them as an example. They are no example to you. For they say and do not. They say and do not. And what else do they do? For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders. So what they do is, they make certain orders and rules which create a burden unto others, to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders and put them on men to follow it up. But they themselves will not move move them with one of their fingers. But on their side, they will not follow it up. That's what it means. They themselves will not follow it up, even with one finger. But all their works they do, but keep this in mind, for all their works they do for to be seen of men. So whatever they do, the works that they do is all to show off to people. To show off to people. So how do they show off? By being hypocritically pious. Hypocritically pious. The word for that is sanctimonious. Sanctimonious. Sanctimonious means hypocritic. Yes. Hypocritically pious. Hypocritically pious. Sanctimonious.